just mute my stream so I don't interrupt myself. Ahoy, mateys! Introducing New Year's coding, or suddenly wanting the game to be 3D so you completely start over with a new coding language. That's a bit old. I should probably change that. By a damned land-loving, washed-up fool with more boulder between the ears than brain. Enjoy. So basically, what I am doing today is just what I kind of was doing with my game maker coach. This is a Blender tutorial that has been updated for 2026, and I'm almost confident that's what year it is. I've already gotten like 7 minutes in, but this guy, I don't think he's an official Blender person. He is called the Blender Guru on YouTube. If you have any questions or anything that you feel, if you want to go back over this course, then it would probably be best just to go him. I'll be following him similar to how I was following the one person for Game Maker. I do not own his videos, and I do not want to make it seem like I am stealing his content. But yeah, I'm trying to, like I said, I try and use streaming as sort of a way to force myself to do things even if I don't want to do them. So, without further ado, I will restart.
So this is Blender. It can do 3D modeling, texturing, lighting, shading, and rendering. And I'm going to show you how to do all of those things whilst you make your very own donut. And I know this looks complex and challenging, but I promise you it is achievable for even a complete beginner that has never opened Blender, such as yourself. And I know this because millions of beginners have already made their donut, because this is the 5th version of this tutorial. I remake it for every major Blender release, this one for Blender 5.0. And speaking of which, if you have already made a donut from a previous version, rather than make another one, I've actually just released a course designed for post-donut beginners. So if you're interested in that, you can click the link below. For everybody else, you need to download Blender. So if you haven't already, click the link below. That'll take you to blender.org, and then just hit the big download button. Now, if you're on Windows, that'll download an executable, which you should install. If you're on a Mac, it's an application. You drag to your applications folder. And also, if you're at school or you're on a work computer that won't let you install anything, you can still use Blender. If you download the portable zip version of Blender, then just unzip it, you can run Blender from the folder.
Alright, I really don't feel good about having pretty much no real content. Let's see, what? Oh, right, this is, okay, beginner's tutorial. Oh. Let me just get back to the part I was at. Gonna go to exactly 7 minutes.
Left-hand corner, there's a little box that says Add Torus.
Oh, right. I need to add mesh torus, and then right here I need to follow him.
And this has additional options for us. Now, if you accidentally clicked off after you added the torus, that box is gone. You can momentarily bring it back by hitting F9, but that's only if you haven't changed something. So essentially, yeah, it's called the last used function in Blender, so that immediately after you do an action in Blender, sometimes you see in the bottom left-hand corner additional options which you can tweak and change things if you need. So if you don't see it, it just means you've done something else and it's gone. But yeah, you can bring it back momentarily by hitting F9 sometimes. But I usually just like redo it. Anyways, so first thing I want to change is the size of this thing. So it is 1 meter, which is like 3 feet for the Americans. It's a big donut. Probably shouldn't be that big. It should be about 10% of that. So 0.1, which is 10 centimeters, roughly about that. And then if I zoom in by scrolling forward, I just need to change my minor radius until it looks somewhat like a donut. So I want to just orbit up, right, and around. So I'm just middle mouse moving so I can see the inside. Then I'll just scroll in like so until, yeah, and I'm just going to change this value until it looks like a donut. Now, you can see as I move this, like it's going really quick and I can't get it on the right value. So when you're clicking and dragging on a value in Blender, if you hold down Shift, that will use smaller increments. And that's another one you use all the time because it's, yeah, sometimes you... need small values, and it's helpful to get smaller increments like that. So that's pretty good. I might go with that. Yeah, about a 0.057. Okay. And then the other thing you can change here is like the resolution of the donut. You know, you can go like really PlayStation 1 graphics, maybe. I'm going to keep it at 48, but I'm going to increase the other one to about, yeah, let's go 18, like that. 16, 18, yeah, we'll go 18. And that's just a little bit more resolution, and it's just going to help us a little bit later on when we start to shape the donut. Okay, but once I've got that, I can just click off, and now those options are gone. We've committed. That's it. That is the starting point of...
So I was going to go for a low polygon art style like this. However... Hello. However, I'm pretty sure I should probably just follow the tutorial. That would be 48. I'm not gonna lie, it took me a minute to realize the person's stream you're watching wasn't you. Yeah, this is Blender Guru on YouTube.
Forward. I just need to change my minor radius until it looks somewhat like a donut. So I want to just orbit up, right, and around. So I'm just middle mouse moving so I can see the inside. Then I'll just scroll in like so until, yeah, and I'm just going to change this value until it looks like a donut. Now, you can see as I move this, like it's going really quick and I can't get it on the right value. So when you're clicking and dragging on a value in Blender, if you hold down Shift, that will use smaller increments. And that's another one you use all the time because it's, yeah, sometimes you need small values and it's helpful to get smaller increments like that. So that's pretty good. I might go with that. Yeah, about a 0.057. Okay. And then the other thing you can change here is like the resolution of the donut. You know, you can go like really PlayStation 1 graphics, maybe. I'm going to keep it at 48, but I'm going to increase the other one to about, yeah, let's go 18, like that. 16, 18, yeah, we'll go 18. And that's just a little bit more resolution, and it's just going to help us a little bit later on when we start to shape the donut. Okay, but once I've got that, I can just click off, and now those options are gone. We've committed. That's it. That is the starting point of our donut.
Unless we, of course, just go over here and press F9.
PlayStation 1 graphics, Andrew. And that's because it has flat shading. So basically there's two states for a mesh. There's smooth shading or there is flat shading, and it defaults to flat. If you want to change it to smooth, you just right click the object and then go shade smooth, like that. And there we go, it's fixed. So it basically shades smooth without getting too technical. Anytime there is like two faces, it just kind of smooths out that point like fakery. So it's not actually adding any additional computation times, which is important, but it's appearing to the eye to be smooth. Okay, so in previous donut versions, we would start making the icing, and although that's fun to make like dribbling icing, it can be a little complicated. A lot of users ran into their first roadblocks at that time. So instead we're going to do something a little bit easier to start with and more practical, and that's to make a coffee mug. So we need to add in a new object, which if you can remember from before, it's the add menu at the top there, or the hotkey as I like to use, Shift A. And then underneath mesh, you're looking for something that most resembles the object you're trying to create. No prizes for guessing, the cylinder. Okay, so it comes in very, very big. It's completely engulfing our donut. So again, in the bottom left-hand corner, click that little add cylinder, and then I'm gonna change the radius first of all, just to bring this back. You can like do this after the fact, like resize something, but it just helps to, you know, at this point, see it all together. I think I'm gonna make it around, holding down Shift, and just kind of drag it back and forth. Yeah, about 0.13, or exactly 0.13. And then the depth, this is just the height of it. And again, you can change this later on, but just want to see it roughly the right size. The big one that's important is the vertices. And we're actually going to make this look more low res. Now, why would we make it look more low res? Because now it's obviously very jagged. The reason for this is that very soon we're going to be adding in something called a subsurf modifier, which adds over the top of our existing mesh. It adds more geometry, like it doubles the geometry and it kind of smooths it out. So actually if you start too high like this, then you're adding, like doubling that geometry and doubling it again, and then you can quickly end up with something that's too computationally heavy. So when you're working and you know you're going to be doing something subdiv, sometimes it helps to start like chunkier, low res. Anyway, just trust me and set it to 14, like that. Okay, great. So we've got another object and they are completely overlapping. So how do we separate things? Some of you might already know this. You can guess, right? Left-hand side there's a tool that looks like it would be able to move something. It's the move tool. So this is one way to move things. You activate that and you get this little gizmo, and look, I can move it and I can separate them. So this is moving things along the axes. You can also just drag on that, click and drag on that little white circle there, and then that's like freehand drag around. I will say most Blender users don't actually use and move things this way, because it's a lot of effort every time you want to move something to like go to the sidebar, activate the tool, you know, click it, move it. It's like most people don't do that. Instead, they remember the hotkey, and the hotkey to move in Blender, and you'll be using this a lot. So again, this is on my keyboard shortcut. It's all in there, but the hotkey is G for grab. Now, you will notice very quickly that when you tap G, the moment you tap it, you are already in the move state. So it's now attached to my cursor, even though I didn't click, okay? So, and here's the other thing. My cursor could be on the other side of the screen. It doesn't have to be anywhere near the object. And then the moment you tap G, it's now anchored to that cursor. And even more, I think it's cool. When you go to the other side of the screen, it actually, your cursor appears on the other side. So it's just like an infinitely repeating thing there. But at first, this is like hard to wrap your head around, because Blender does this for a lot of things, like not just moving something, but also rotating something. The moment I tap R, which is how to rotate something, or S, okay, I thought I might as well just teach you all three at the same time. So G to move something, G for grab, R to rotate, or S to scale something. But you'll see in each of those states, the moment you hit the key, no matter where your cursor is, it's in that state. And that's actually a good thing, because, as I said, the number of times you need to move things and rotate and scale things in 3D, if you had to every single time change the tool, then move your cursor over to it, click it, activate it, that's a lot of extra steps. So it's actually really cool to have this like just one tap key and it's already activated. Anyways, okay, so, but whilst I'm in the move state by tapping G, I can also lock it to a specific axis, just like with those arrows that you saw before. So just when it's in that move state, you tap the axes you want to move it on. So that's the X axis, the Y brings it back and forwards, and the Z is up and down, okay? And that's correct. Blender is Z up, Y backwards and forwards. Different 3D applications have different things. There's no like standard, but yeah, that's how Blender's is. And by the way, if you forget which letter is which axis, you can actually see them up there in that little circle there. So again, X, Y, and Z. Anyways, I want to move this actually just a little bit further back, right there. So I want my donut to be the front and center, and I want this to be at the back there. But then how do I change my view so I'm no longer just pivoting on my donut? I want to shift my focus to that selected object. It's number pad period. Or again, holding down that tilde key under your escape button and then hitting view selected is the same thing. Okay, so let's make this look like a coffee mug. So we have to edit this object, and to edit an object, we have to change what mode we are in. So in the top left-hand corner of the screen, there's a little drop-down, which if you click, we can change it into edit mode. Okay, so when you're in edit mode, you can see this.
One moment. I'm going to object mode. Just going to What? Huh? Darn it. Wrong delete key.
State has changed. The object that was selected now has a bunch of points and lines on it. And you'll also notice whilst you're in edit mode, you can't actually select any object. And it's worth pointing out this because this is a really common thing. A lot of beginners, they say, I don't know what happened, but I couldn't select anything in Blender. And usually it's just they're in the wrong state. They're in edit mode, they forgot, and then they tried to like come over here and then click something and they're like, why is it not selecting? Okay, so you have to be in object mode if you want to select an object, and if you want to edit something, you have to be in edit mode. But going to this drop down and doing this time and again would again be annoying. So Blender, of course, has a hotkey for it, and that is tab. So tab will just cycle you in and out of object and edit mode, just those two states, which is great because you need to use this all the time. So usually come in, do some editing, go back into object mode, select something else, edit that one, go back to this. So that's, yeah, good one to remember, tab.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so in edit mode, when I'm in this state here, these little points here, these are called vertices. These are the points that make up the the shape of the mesh, obviously. And then you've got edges, and you can actually select by changing the selection type from vertices, which is the default, to edges, clicking that little button, and then I can click on the edges, or select faces, okay, like this. And again, Blender has hotkeys for everything, so if you want to just know the hotkey, it's 1 to do vertices select, 2 to do edge select, and then 3 to do face select. Again, make sure you get my keyboard shortcut guide, because it's a lot to remember. So I want to select the top of this cup here. It's got a lid on it that I don't want. So in face select mode, selecting that face, I'm going to hit X. Now it's going to ask me, what part do you want to delete? Which might sound redundant, but there is quite a lot of times in Blender you want to delete, even though you've selected a bunch of faces, you want to delete the entire vertices of those faces. So we have to confirm we want to delete just the faces from this list, and there we go. So we've now got a cup with a hole in it. Great. But this cup will not do. It is too paper thin. We could cut our finger on that edge there. So we need to add some thickness to this cup. And while we could do this in edit mode, like you could select everything and extrude it in and whatnot, we don't need to, because there is actually a function we can do to add thickness to anything without needing to go into edit mode. And that is underneath your modifier stack here. So if you click this little wrench, this will activate modifiers. Let's just drag this out. And if you click add modifier at the top there, you can see you've got a number of different options. And the one that we're looking for is solidify. So this is underneath the generate, and just in case this changes for a future version of Blender, you can also go to search at the top there, and you can just type in solidify from the list.
There. Okay.
Okay, so now that we've got that, you can see we've got a bunch of options, and you'll notice that our mesh now has some thickness to it. And I can change this thickness here. Now, watch what happens as I enter into edit mode. You will notice, as I select these faces here, I can't select this inside part of
Wait, did he increase the thickness? Did he increase the thickness?
We'll just cycle you in and out
darn it.
of object and edit mode. Just those two
This-
states.
This video is like 4 hours long. It's going to be a bit hard to specifically undo the single section I'm in.
Which is great because you need to use this all the time. So you usually come in, do some editing, go back into object mode, select something else, and then you've got edges, and it's a lot to remember. So drag this out, and if you click add modifier at the top there, you can see you've got a number of different options, and the one that we're looking for is solidify. So this is underneath the generate, and just in case this changes for a future version of Blender, you can also go to search at the top there, and you could just type in solidify from the list. Okay, so now that we've got that, you can see we've got a bunch of options, and you'll notice that our mesh now has some thickness to it, and I can change this thickness here. Now, watch what happens as I enter into edit mode. You will notice, as I select these faces here, I can't select this inside part of the cup there. And that's an important point because modifiers are not actually adjusting the real mesh. So the real mesh still exists here. If I disable this from the viewport by clicking this little monitor button there, you'll see that my mesh has not changed. This is just applying this effect after the fact. So it's basically in object mode, it's taking whatever mesh that you give it, which is this, and then it's adding thickness to every face, essentially. So the reason this is so useful is that this is a non-destructive workflow. So I could, at any point, I could be doing a bunch of changes to my mug here. I could, we'll get to all that later on. We could, change the size and things, and then later on I can go, you know what? I think that's a little bit too thick. I'm going to change that, and I can come back to that and very quickly adjust it. So non-destructive, and it's obviously very helpful for a lot of things. Okay, so I've given it some thickness, but I also want to round this corner here. That's way too jagged. Just like before I said, we're going to add in an extra layer on top, which adds more geometry, and that is called your add modifier, generate subdivision surface. So yeah, all the way down there. You use it all the time, but it's like buried in there. Okay, so subdivision.
One moment, let me...
On top, which adds more geometry, and that is called your add modifier, generate subdivision surface. So yeah, all the way down there. You use it all the time, but it's like buried in there. Okay, so subdivision surface. So this appears to have like screwed up the mesh. It's like, whoa, what actually happened there? Let's just increase the levels viewport. So this is just increasing the number of times that it doubles the geometry. So you can see this is what we start with, right? This is the start. This is one level. Then this is 2 levels, and then this is 3 levels, and every time you do it, it's doubling the geometry. But you can see it's giving us the effect we want. It's smoothing out that edge there. But because of the way that it works, like basically, if you look at, let's go back to this, we've got this hard corner here, right? It's just like a 90-degree corner. So let me get in a little bit closer here so you can kind of see it. Yeah, it's like a 90-degree, perfectly like that. So when you add in a subdivision surface, it's basically saying, okay, so there's a point here, there is a point all the way over here, and there is a point that's going to go all, like it's so far it's off the screen, but it's all the way down there. So what I need to do is I need to average out those points. So take the middle point of those three. So essentially from here to somewhere around here, and I'm
Hypotenuse.
going to point like here, right? And then if you do another level, like level 2, it then places a point here, and then another point here, and then if you do another level, it places another point here, another point here, another point here. And because there's two sides to this mug, there's like another one happening on that side, right? So we've now just got this like really super like oval shaped edge like this, okay? Which is why when I turn it on, we get this effect there. So what we first of all need to do in edit mode with our mug here, so I'm in, actually it doesn't matter what mode I'm actually in here, but what I need to do is essentially tighten an edge where that smoothing is happening. So it's no longer happening from all the way here to smooth it all the way down to there. I want to happen at like just to about there. So I need to add in more geometry onto this mesh here. So to do that, we need to add a loop cut. That is how you add in another level of another edge. So Control R will add in this loop cut. I believe you can also find it from the mesh somewhere in here. Yeah, there you go. Edge, loop cut and slide if you wanted to look it in there. But it's, yeah, Control R. That's another one you use all the time. So when I hit Control R, it's saying, where do you want to place the cut in this mesh? And I could place it, you know, anywhere between a face, essentially. So I'm going to place it along this middle. So you do a single click, and then it's saying, where do you want to place that vertically on this this row of faces, essentially. So you can see as I bring it towards the top there, it's tightening that edge there, okay? And that's exactly what I want. I want that edge to be much tighter than it was before. So that edge is now looking good, but now what about this one at the bottom there? This one's looking even worse. We've got a lot to fix here. But first, I need to do another loop cut. So Control R, and then again, single click to confirm I want it on that row of faces. And then I'm just sliding it along until it's, you know, roughly about there at the bottom of my mug, okay? And then you can see it's...
Uh-oh. There we go. That way it looks very flat on bottom.
Like this whole area here, this face here, it's become like it's turned it into a star. And not to get too complicated, but basically a subsurf modifier, it has to know what to do. And generally, if there's like faces that are made up of 4 vertices, it's getting complicated, I can tell. It knows what to do. It makes it like nice and smooth. But the moment you have a face that is made up of more than 4 vertices, it's called an n-gon, and it doesn't really know what to do with it. I mean, it does, but you don't know what it's going to do, and it just can make things look a little ugly. N-gon is kind of like a dirty word in 3D space. It's like, you never want to have an n-gon. They are actually useful, and they, you know, do have a purpose, but generally speaking, they're good to avoid if you don't know what you're doing. So anyway, I should tell you what I'm doing. The way to fix this is I need to add another loop that kind of just goes around here, right there. So that way I've only got from there to there, and then I can have my ugly star or whatever happening underneath my coffee mug. So I need to add a loop cut, but I can't add a loop cut on just a single face. Instead, what I need to do is, it's called inset, to take a single face and then just like add in a loop around that face. And you do that by hitting I. So I, and then just like, it's already active. Again, this is the way, this is why I spent a while to explain it. the moment you activate a tool, you're already in that selection state. So I hit I, and wherever my cursor is, it's now going like, where do you want to put this inset, okay? So I'm just moving it back and forth until I get it. You know, how tight do I want this edge to look? Something like that, maybe? I mean, it's underneath the coffee mug. It doesn't really matter that much, but yeah, something like that. And there we go. So you can see this looks a lot nicer. And again, because we are in a non-destructive workflow, I've still got my solidify modifier at the top here, right? I could change the thickness of this. I can make this a really chunky looking coffee mug or a really thin one. And that is the benefit of a non-destructive workflow. And then I can also change how high res do I want my coffee mug to look. And this is the way to work in 3D. This is the best way to do it because, you know, if a client wants you to change something or whatnot, keeping in a flexible workflow is definitely a good place to be.
One moment. As I assumed, it was my grandparents granting me lunch.
Okay, so we have created the start of a coffee mug, and we have also created a donut. Good time to save. Good time to save. So, file, save as, or shift control S, and then save as. So,
Ooh, what? What is all this? I don't know if I should be showing all this stuff. One moment. This one, right? Yeah. Let me just save there. I really don't want to have to look up a tutorial on how to save my projects. That would be
the way I like to save
awful.
things, and you might want to copy this, is to you come up with a name, you know, underscore whatever, and then you put a number after it, and then you can actually see I've already saved my file. I don't want to override my existing save in case I need to go back to it for whatever reason, so I just want to add a number to it. And another song.
Okay, one moment. So then he's just Doing exactly what I asked for. There.
Off west.
I think that works.
You know, you have to come, you know, and you have to type in the number, right? Not Blender. Blender has a hotkey for everything. If you hit plus or minus on your numpad, or on the little field here, oh, you can't even see it. I'm right over the top of it, right there. This little field, these little plus and minus, it'll automatically add a number to the end of your file. So that's, yeah, really useful. So I'm just going to add a 2 there, and I'm going to hit save.
All of that was just part 1? Okay, how... Oh, that was already half an hour. How long does part 2 go on for? It's about... Oh, it just breaks the hour mark. Materials, texturing, scattering. So basic modeling is the next part. Okay. Yeah, I think I can go through this part.
It's time to make our coffee mug look like a coffee mug and not like a
Mhm.
sad little cup. So we could try to model this from our imagination, because like, hey, we all pick up coffee mugs, we know what they look like, or we think we know what they look like. Something that you learn very quickly in 3D is that when you model something from imagination, it almost always comes out looking a little bit funny. And the reason for that is that your brain is very good at like abstracting away the information that isn't important to it. Like if you just close your eyes right now and just think of a doorknob. Like what does a doorknob look like, right? If you had to make one in Blender, what would it be? It's like, okay, well it's like a sphere bit, you like grip it, you turn it, and there's like a cylinder thing at the back, and there's a cylinder that connects it, and that's kind of it. But then if you were to make that, you end up with something that looks really basic and boring and bad, and then you go actually look at a real doorknob and you forget there's all this other detail that's just not important to your brain, like the little lip inside, the little hole that's on there that's so you can put a key in to kind of like pry it open, or a rim that kind of like cuts into it, so there's like a separate seam around it. There's the privacy lock on the front. All these things that just don't matter to you when you're turning a handle, and so you forgot that they even existed because you never even saw it really. So the same thing applies to even something as common as a coffee mug. So it helps, when possible, to use reference images. Now, you can get reference images from anywhere because we have the power of the internet. And you can type in handmade coffee mug and you can pick any mug you want to create. There's a lot. And, you know, if you want to pick...
Wait a minute. Dang it. I took my eyes off of the screen for like 5 seconds and then he just pulled up something else.
It helps, when possible, to use reference images. Now, you can get reference images from anywhere because we have the power of the internet. And you can type in handmade coffee mug and you can pick any mug you want to create.
Okay, then I'll just do that. Okay.
There's a lot. And if you want to pick one of these, if you want to just go on Google Images, you can pick one of these and go for it. I'm going to give you an image that I've used, but you can. There's some really pretty ones here, and I was actually shocked just whilst like clicking on some of these sites before. I was like, oh yeah, like that's a cute little handmade mug. And then you go like, oh my gosh, $123.25, and that's a discount from 145.
Goodness.
And then you think like, oh, it must be like a one of one, like a unique thing. Like, no, there's like 9 reviews, like people are buying it. I'm like, I don't know, I gotta make more money or something. Like, I don't know how people are buying $123 coffee mugs.
Honestly, I saw one guy in the Epic in the Unreal Engine marketplace, the community place, and he made a single animation where you're swinging a sword, and it's like $50 to $60 for swinging a sword in your right hand animation. So yeah.
I think it's also like we forget what labor costs, Like you think like a coffee mug is like $2, right? Or $1, or it's free. Like it's just there's so many of them, it doesn't even matter. But like no, like to hand make something, like obviously any of these mugs, they take more than a few hours to make if you're making it by hand. So like yeah, $33 is probably like break even for them. Probably not even making any money, but it's just like yeah. Anyways, whole side topic of like the economy of handmade ceramic mugs. For $123. All right. So all that is to say is I want you to get an image, and the one I'm going to use, the link for this is below, and it's on my website. I've got all the links to everything we're going to be using in this tutorial. But there's 2 ways to add images. So one way is to go to the add menu and then just go image and then say reference, and then you just pick wherever the reference is.
Oh. Once again. Gosh, I envy how organized his computer is. Alright, a moment. It would only let me see. There. That looks simple. Done. Go back here. So yeah, this is just random photo I took off the internet. And then move selected item back here. Ooh, what the hell? Well, this looks wrong. Oh, I can scale it up and down. That's probably useful. Oh my goodness. Now if I go back to that, I'll have rotated at 0. That's honestly a bit scary. Anyway, there. Exactly where should I put this? I think that's alright. Everything considered. I would also... Yeah. So, right here, I would like to mention that on the screen I'm using to look at all of this, it is much darker than the stream actually is.
And you can drop it in.
But yeah, I think we're ready to
The
continue.
alternative way, and it's something that we didn't used to be able to do, and that's to just drag over from wherever it is on your computer and then just drop it into Blender, and it will recognize it as an image and it will bring it in as an image object. So either of those ways will work. So this is the image. This is the one we're going to use. Now, if you quickly orbit around, you'll notice that it's come in at a funny...
Wait, I'm supposed to be using that image. Nah, it'll be fine.
Now, I don't know why Blender does this. I think it's because they think people want it locked to the perspective that they were at when they brought it in there, but I've never needed that. So we just need to clear this rotation and then rotate it to the way we want. So to clear the rotation, I'm going to hit Alt-R. The alternative way, Object, Clear, Rotation, Alt-R, same thing. Now it's flat, so now we need to rotate it, prop it upright so that it is flat onto, how it should be relative to the scene. So I need to rotate it, so I'm going to hit R. So we're now in freehand rotate mode, and it's relative to where we were looking at it, which is this funny angle. So if you remember from before, when we're in a move state, like rotate, scale, or grab, we can lock something to a specific axis whilst we're in this mode by just tapping the letter of that axis. And if you don't know the letter, you can see we really want it on this red line here, and that red top right hand corner, that is the X axis. So I'm going to hit X. There we go. So now it is locked to that axis, which is good, and now we want it to be 90 degrees. So you could either hold down Control, and you can see in the top, what that does is that's now moving it in 5-degree increments, or you could just type in the number 90 on your keyboard and then hit enter, and there we go. So that's how we bring it in and clear the rotation and set it up. So all right, now it's way too big, so hotkey to scale something, S, okay, S to scale, and now I'm just going to scale this down, and I can't see my mug, so my mug is behind it. So let me just move my mug. I'll move my mug forward, so let's move it forward to there. Okay, all right, and then now I'm going to look at it like front on. Okay, so I can do that by clicking this little minus Y at the top there. That'll do front on, or the hotkeys, because I use my numpad. For those of you blessed with a numpad, you'll like it. You can hit numpad 1, that's front view, numpad 3, that's side view, or numpad 7, that is top view. But I use those a lot, but again, you can use these if you don't have it. Okay, so front view, and then I'm going to scroll in to zoom, shift middle mouse to pan to the side, and now I'm going to move this over here, and I'm going to scale this down again to get it roughly to be the size of my mug here, because I know that this mug is right relative to the donut, so it should be good. And then what I'm looking at for the size of this image here is I want the top of this rim here to roughly match the bottom down there. So this, like, I want that to match that. So
This needs to be slightly taller. Unfortunately, that would mean I need to delete it and make another one. No, it'll be fine.
So it's still a little bit too big. And you'll notice I can't really easily do it from this angle. I mean, I can, but the problem is that this photograph is taken with a camera from the real world where there is perspective. But we are looking in 3D, and actually when we're in an axis like this, the reason it all becomes flattened is because it is in perspective mode. If you click that little button there, that'll actually put you back into perspective mode, and you can see how things get distorted and like angles and things. So the best reference is actually reference, which is in orthographic, like blueprints for something, but you usually don't have that, so you just go from something like this and just kind of best guess it. Anyways, okay, cool. So that's roughly the right size of
Roughly, you know.
of image. Now we can model by going into edit mode by hitting tab, toggle in and out of edit mode, and we can start to shape this to look like this mug here. So the first thing you will notice is like the general broad shape of the mug is that it actually kind of tapers towards the top. Both lines are kind of tapered upwards. And then there's a kind of a midpoint around about here where it starts to invert and it goes in the other direction. Okay, so it's a very smooth object and perfect for using Subsurf Modifier, which is what we've already got. So to get that taper going up to the side, I want to shrink the top of the mug here just a little bit. So I'm going to hold down Alt, and I'm going to go into Edge Select mode at the top there, and then Alt, and then just left click on that line, and not on like a middle point like here, it'll select a different edge, but just on the middle there. And then now I want to scale this in to just shrink the size just a little bit. So I'm going to scale that to there, and then I'm going to select the line underneath it, and I'm going to do the same thing. So Alt click on that line, that edge, and then just scale it, about halfway there. Now I want to create this like widened point right here, and you can see like from here, like there's a lip at the bottom, but like from here to here, and then it goes up.
Wait, what? Oh gosh.
Put you back into perspective mode, and you can see how things get distorted and like angles and things. So the best reference is actually reference, which is in orthographic, like blueprints for something, but you usually don't have that, so you just go from something like this and just kind of best guess it. Anyways, okay, cool. So that's roughly the right size of image. Now we can model by going into edit mode by hitting tab, toggle in and out of edit mode, and we can start to shape this to look like this mug here. So the first thing you will notice is like the general broad shape of the mug is that it actually kind of tapers towards the top. Both lines are kind of tapered upwards. And then there's a kind of a midpoint around about here where it starts to invert and it goes in the other direction. Okay, so it's a very smooth object and perfect for using Subsurf Modifier, which is what we've already got. So to get that taper going up to the side, I want to shrink the top of the mug here just a little bit. So I'm going to hold down Alt, and I'm going to go into Edge Select mode at the top there, and then Alt, and then just left click on that line, and not on like a middle point like here, it'll select a different edge, but just on the middle there. And then now I want to scale this in to just shrink the size just a little bit. So I'm going to scale that to there, and then I'm going to select the line underneath it, and I'm going to do the same thing. So Alt click on that line, that edge,
Hmm? Wait, how are you scaling that?
On that line, that edge.
Oh, you're using like R or something. Wrong thing. And then R? No. Is it S to scale? Yeah, it's S to scale. Isn't there something to extend? D, nothing. A is, oh, that's just all. Oh gosh. Oh wait, no.
And then just scale it, about halfway there. Now I want to create this like widened point right here, and you can see like from here, like there's a lip at the bottom, but like from here to here, and then it goes up. I'd say probably 20% up the mug. That's where that middle point is. So this line is close, but I'd probably pull it up a little bit. So I'm going to double tap G, and that'll let me slide that edge there. And
Alt around there. Delete. These are edges. What the hell? All right. Actually, while we're here, I can make it taller. No. Gonna go for 30. Oh, and how many? Okay, so we want. Alright. We want faces. Delete faces. Then add modifier generate. Solidify. Add another, generate, subdivide surface. I think I went with that. And then, oh gosh, how do I? Oh, gosh.
this row of faces essentially. So we've got a lot, and again, and I'm just sliding it along until it's, roughly about there at the bottom of my mug, okay? And then you can see it's like this whole area here, this face here, it's become like it's turned it into a star. And not to get too complicated, but basically a subsurf modifier, it has to know what to do. And generally, if there's like faces that are made up of 4 vertices, it's getting complicated, I can tell. It knows what to do. It makes it like nice and smooth. But the moment you have a face that is made up of more than 4 vertices, it's called an n-gon. And it doesn't really know what to do with it. I mean, it does, but you don't know what it's going to do. And it just can make things look a little ugly. N-gon is kind of like a dirty word in 3D space. It's like, you never want to have an n-gon. They are actually useful, and they do have a purpose, but generally speaking, they're good to avoid if you don't know what you're doing. So, anyway, I should tell you what I'm doing. The way to fix this is I need to add another loop that kind of just goes around here, right there. So that way I've only got from there to there, and then I can have my ugly star or whatever happening underneath my coffee mug. So I need to add a loop cut, but I can't add a loop cut on just a single face. Instead, what I need to do is, it's called inset, to take a single face and then just like add in a loop around that face. And you do that by hitting I. So I, and then just like, it's already active. Again, this is the way, this is why I spent a while to explain it. The moment you activate.
Okay.
See, like from here, like there's a lip at the bottom, but like from here to here, and then it goes up. I'd say probably 20% up the mug. That's where that middle point is. So this line is close, but I'd probably pull it up a little bit. So I'm gonna.
Okay, one more. Alright, edges.
I'm gonna double tap G, and that'll let me slide that edge there.
But now I don't really want that, do I? Because I'm going for this instead of this, which is how I differentiate my content from his. Yeah.
And I'll put it to, it's about there. And now I want to pull it out to make it a little bit thicker. S. Pull that out to about there. And now I can see this line here is not quite right, so I'm going to scale this one out as well. Just a little bit. Okay, that's roughly the right shape. Okay. Now this bit at the bottom here. Okay, so I can see already that I need a little bit more detail. So I'm actually going to have to slide this line up here. So I'm going to hit double G to just kind of slide it up, and I'm going to pull it to about there. You can see now we've got kind of a more curved taper on that edge there, and I'm going to hit S to scale. I'm going to double tap. That's great. That's a good start to the mug. It looks good. Awesome. Well done. Now it's time for the challenge of making this handle. So you can see it starts about here, and then obviously extrudes around and goes back into itself and is joined here. So how do we do this? So basically, whenever there is a join, and you can see there's like a nice bevel edge there kind of thing, it has to physically be part of the geometry of this. You can't just have it like existing out in space, because then it won't appear to be joined together. So essentially we have to find somewhere on this mesh to start the handle from, and that point is actually here, right here, which is why I've modeled it this way. Right here is where I'm going to
That works.
Extrude out. Now, before I show you how to extrude, I first of all want to show you, I'm going to do something and it's going to mess it up. And I'm going to then show you why we need to do something else first before we start extruding. So if I was to extrude this out, we could do the whole handle here, get it back there, make it look perfect, and then later on look at our mug and go, oh no, what is going on? The reason this happens is because of, you might remember, the solidify modifier, which these modifiers, they're not part of the mesh, right? It's happening after the fact. So it's adding a thickness to any mesh that we have here, and it's now adding a thickness to the actual handle itself. So how do we fix that? We fix that by making this go from a modifier to real, like actually bake it into the mesh so that it's actually real geometry. And the way you do that is, first of all, let me just undo all of those.
Control Z is undo. Control Z is undo. It has an undo button. That's like the most important thing you could have told me.
Control Z, of course. The way you do it is by going
Oh yes, of course.
the modifier, and then in the little drop down in the top there, right next to that little camera icon, there is an apply. So when you click that, it's disappeared, and now when you go into edit mode though, you can see all that geometry that wasn't there before is now.
Oh, dang it. I keep losing focus for like 5-second increments, and it's like, anyway, I've done the thing now.
Camera icon there, the modifier, and then in the little drop down in the top there, right next to that little camera. Icon, there is an apply. So when you click that, it's disappeared.
Uh-oh. I think I need to go back even further. Or I just wasn't clicking the right thing.
Let me just undo all of those. Control Z, of course. The way you do it is by going to the modifier, and then in the little drop down in the top there, right next to that little camera icon, there is an apply. So when you click that, it's disappeared. And
oh, wait a moment. It's not allowed from edit mode. Okay. Apply.
now when you go into edit mode though, you can see all that
All that new, good geometry. Nice.
geometry that wasn't there before is now actually part of it. And you can see it if you turn off the subset modifier. So I can now make changes to the inner part of my model there without it affecting the rest of it. So it's actual real mesh that we can manipulate. Obviously the downside is it's no longer non-destructive, so that slider that we had for changing the thickness of the mug, we no longer have the slider. It would just mean if we wanted to change the thickness of the mug, we would have to like do it ourselves, like selecting all that stuff and doing it. But that's fine. You have to break the workflow eventually to add in customization, but there you go. So anyways, now that I've got this, now when I select this face here, I can start to do the extrusion. So importantly, make sure you're selecting the right face. If you were to select this one by mistake and then start trying to do your handle and then like twist it around, it would start to get screwed up very, very quickly. So make sure that you've got this red line that's like intersecting your mug there, that it is, yeah, like it's that one. It's like bang on to the middle. And you can actually check if you go into top view mode, it should be directly in the middle of the mug there. Okay, so with that selected, I'm going to go into front view mode with numpad 1, or hitting that little green thing, and then I'm going to hit, again, the hotkey that we use for extrusion is E to extrude out. Now when you do that, it's using the normals, the hidden, it's like the hidden direction of each of the faces that are on your mesh, okay? So it's kind of extruding it out like that. For most of you watching this, the extrusion there worked perfectly, but every now and then you go to extrude something and it doesn't work, and it's because there's something wrong with the normals of the face that you tried to extrude from. Basically, it would just mean you would have to clear the normals first. So basically, you would select the face, then hit Shift N, and it would clear normals. I've got, by the way, throughout this tutorial, that you're going to run into a lot of problems that I might not be able to explain to you. So I've actually created a troubleshooting guide.
What key did I need to press? shift in. Uh-oh. Alright. Shift in.
I've got, by the way, throughout this tutorial, you're going to run into a lot of problems that I might not be able to explain to you. So I've actually created a troubleshooting guide called the Unstuck Yourself Guide. So the link for that is below as well. But this is just like a database of all the problems you might run into whilst you're doing this tutorial. Because we noticed on the Blender Guru Discord, link for that is below as well, where you can ask questions and share your renders and stuff. A lot of people are asking the same questions. So we put together this like FAQ troubleshooting guide, and please make use of that. So there'll probably be, when you're modeling things, people will run into issues. So just have a look at that if you run into an issue first. Anyways, sorry to really painfully slowly do this, but we've extruded out a little bit. Now I'm going to move this up. So just grabbing, so G to grab, I'm going to move up. And I might actually now, I'm going to tab out so that I can select my image. So I'm in object mode. And I'm actually just going to move this over. So G and then X, move it over to be about there.
You know what, actually. Control Z, 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 and then, no, something. Z. That? That one? E, no. Z, Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. There.
Okay. And that will just enable me to kind of see relative to the mug where it should go. Like, what is the shape? I could do it by eye, but I figure might as well just, it's right there, might as well just grab it and pull it over. So I need to position this about here, but you can see it's kind of getting like skewed, right? And that is because it's obviously coming in at like this slanted angle. So with that face selected, I need to rotate it. So I'm going to hit R to rotate, like so. Okay, so like that. All right, and I might, just trying to think. All right, I definitely need a loop cut because obviously that bit is coming out looking like a nub.
Okay, so is it? Oh, wrong. X. Let's see. Y. Yeah, that's the X's I want. Y. All right. All right.
On our mug there, so I'm going to hit Control R to create a loop cut, and I'm going to pull it down so that I can see it's like where it should join, basically at the base there. All right, great. And now face
Wait, what? What did he just do?
select mode, select create it's coming. Just trying to think. All right, I definitely need a loop cut because obviously that bit is coming out looking like a nub on our mug there. So I'm going to hit Control R to create a loop cut.
Control R. And then place it there. Nice. Then I could honestly. Could I just like extrude? No. All right.
And I'm going to pull it down so that I can see it's like where it should join, basically at the base there. All right, great. And now, face select mode, select that face again. And now we just have to keep extruding around. But what I want to do is I want to scale, just make the handle look a little bit thinner. So I'm going to select this top edge here. And I'm going to double tap G just so that I can slide it downwards a little bit to just make it a little bit thinner, because that handle obviously doesn't look as fat as what we had there. So, all right, so face select mode now, and now I'm going to start to extrude. So another extrusion, G to reposition, R to rotate it, and I just want to rotate it so that it kind of follows the contours of this. So I'm going to be rotating it like this kind of angle as we go around. So now E to do another extrusion, click, G, click, R. Now, but by the way, there is another way to extrude, which is actually kind of perfect for this. If you hold down Control and then right-click, it will not only extrude, but it will also rotate the faces so that they align, and it can be a little helpful, a bit more easier than doing this like E-G-R-S, G-R, like, so just holding down Control and then right-click will just place these little points, and will rotate them so that you don't have to do all that rotation yourself. It really only works for these kind of appendages like this, but might as well use it because it's a very handy way to do it. Okay, cool. So now the tricky bit. It's not really that tricky. It's relatively easy to solve, but it's a conundrum, right? Like, how do we make this mesh with the rest of the mesh?
Yeah.
And you do that by, like, the wrong way to do this would be to just like kind of like smush them together, right? And this is kind of like early 3D stuff. Like, a lot of stuff was like this. This kind of mashed stuff and intersected it together, but then you don't get that edge there where it like catches the light. And the only way to really get that is to actually physically like join this mesh together. So this face here has to be connected to this face somehow. And the easiest way in this case to do is to, first of all, we can see that this line here is like cutting into the middle of this this cup here, right? So we really need to just add a line that goes around there to make this area here like one face to match this handle. So I'm going to add that line by hitting Control R, loop cut, click, and then I'm going to slide it up to be, roughly about there. That's fine.
Okay. Then Control R. No, wait. Here, Control R. There.
And then now, because I've intersected it, that went too far. So I'm holding down Z. Now this is a way of quickly changing the mode that you're viewing something in. And we'll get to these other two once we get to materials, rendering and stuff. But for now, if you just swap to wireframe mode, this will show you through the mesh. There is another way to see through a mesh, and that is to, at the top there, that little X-ray or Alt-Z is a hotkey for it. But that's another way to do it. But yeah, you can see that's wireframe, and then hang on a second. Nope, that's X-ray. This is wireframe. But yeah, they're pretty similar. Anyways, so I'm going to select my face here, and I'm just going to pull it out, just so that I can just grab it basically. And now I can go back to my solid view as before. Okay. So I touched on this briefly before, but like a mesh is made up of these individual points, right? This is what you're seeing when you're in vertice mode, these individual points. And each of those points, when you have 4 together, 3 or more actually, you can create a face. And so that's what that is. So essentially, I need to create a new face for this section right here. So let's do that now. So I'm going to select those two, and I've just selected them by holding down Shift like this, and then I'm just going to hit F. F for face. Okay, and then I can do the same on this side, like that.
Okay, nice. Right. F. Okay. F. I was a bit worried about that one. But it came out alright. There. Boom.
And then I'm going to do the same on the top, and then I'm going to do the same underneath. Okay. All right. So I've done it, and I did it deliberately this way because I need to show you the reason for this issue here. So we've got we've got the faces, so they should be going smoothly across here. But because of the way meshes work and the way they try to, the way smooth shading works is, it does.
There's a face inside of right here that we didn't clear before.
Does it based on like a continuous flow of faces, and you
Love you too. Good night.
will have noticed that when we created this, there was actually a face that is inside here.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'll show you if we go into here. This area here, you should see there is a face that is right here.
Oh, that's not the face I thought he was going to talk about. Isn't it Alt-Z? Yeah, I thought he was talking about this face.
So because that exists, the smooth shader doesn't actually know that it's supposed to continue on because there's a face that goes down. So it's now kind of mixed. It doesn't know, like it has to create a smooth shading here, but then also one on the top there. And so it's done this weird hybrid thing where it's like, it's trying to do it, but there's clearly something going on underneath. So what we need to do is just delete that face. So again, in face select mode, you select that inner face there. And by the way, when you're working in 3D, this is a really common thing beginners do, is they select the wrong face. So you can see how quickly that, like, they're right next to each other at that point there, right? But selecting one or the other, it just happens all the time. So a thing that a lot of 3D artists do is when they've selected something, before they delete it, you just do a quick orbit around, and that'll just like break the perspective, and just to verify that that is the actual one I mean to select. Okay, then I'm going to hit X, and I'm going to say faces. But it's not just that one, right? Like that. Actually, that should be fixed soon, but anyway, I'll show you how. And then there's one on the inside here as well, okay? Because when we joined it, there was a face here, and there was a face over there. So I'm now going to delete that face by hitting X, and then say faces. Okay, now that's done. This should be correct, but the reason it's not is, one, I think if I need to right click and say shade smooth, and that has fixed it, what can happen sometimes is when you've fixed up some geometry, you might need to recalculate the normals, and again, to bring up the normals, there's a secret hidden line that every face on your object has, and they're always pointing outwards like that. But when you've created new mesh and you've kind of fix things or whatnot, you can end up with one of these lines that goes the wrong direction. And I'll show you that actually. If I just do this, that's what it might look like. You get this weird like black shading artifacts that's very ugly. So to fix that, you select your entire mesh and then you hit Shift N, and that will recalculate it. And now you can see the smooth shading is correct. And just to show you quickly as well, the way I did it just then, where we like created it and then we deleted the faces, don't do this. I'm just going to show you. Like actually what you would do, because it's not this tedious normally. If you had this problem, you would actually select this face and this face first. You delete them ahead of time, and then actually, and there's a faster way to have created this join here. You can select that entire edge loop with Alt, then Shift Alt, select that, and now I could right click and say Bridge Edge Loops, which you only can do if you've got the exact same number of vertices on one side as the other. But I wanted to show you physically creating those points with vertices, because that is a really common way to model, to join things together. You select the 4 vertices, you create a new face. Anyways, look at that. We've got what looks like a handle coming out of the...
Okay. And mine looks a bit special. Mm-hmm. Wait, what? Wait, need to bring it back here. No, wait. Alt, click. Just one, and then... Yeah, okay. I don't know how that happened, but alright. Get rid of those edges. goodness. Oh, there's one right there. Hmm? Let's see, Control R there, and then put it there. Then take that face and extrude it out a bit. Make it a fine point. Wait a minute. Okay. Just select all, Shift N. Okay.
The mug. Now, if we look at our reference here, we've got it pretty close, but you can see that there's like, it's sharp, right? There's clearly like a crease here and a crease here. And we can do that just by adding in more loop cuts. So I'm going to add in, well, I guess there's two ways to do it. One, I can actually just select this edge here. So holding down Alt, just select that, and then double tap G, and I can bring that in. But when I do that, this area becomes a little bit straight. Maybe not what I wanted. Let's have a look at front mode. Yeah, I might want a little bit more detail there, in which case I would add a loop cut. But, you know, it's really up to you. You might be able to just, you know, move this around and just kind of shape it. Like, look, we're learning Blender. That's really the goal of this. It's not necessarily to make a physically accurate mug. I don't want to overcomplicate things and make things feel like you have to do everything perfectly, but I also don't want to end up with like a trash result and then everyone be like, well, we did all that effort and now it looks garbage. But you know, you could spend a lot of effort. You know, you could even try and get, like, if you look at, you know, there would be probably like a little line here, like the kind of, you know what I mean, like on the inner part of the thing. You could try and create that. You could really add a lot of detail. The only thing I'm really going to fix is right here where it's pinching. I'm just going to select that edge there, and I'm going to double tap G, and I'm just going to slide it up so there's just a little less pinching. And then this part here, like, you can see the shape of this face is being very distorted, right? You generally want to keep things as close to a squarish shape as possible, generally. And so I'm just going to select this edge at the bottom there, double tap G, and I'm just going to pull it out just to relieve a little bit of the
I have no idea what all this is. So you're telling me this whole time there was one of those? Huh? There we are. Map it to the Z coordinate, and then move that up a little.
The tension there, and I mean you can, yeah, there's like a tighter line there, but this will do. This is enough to be perceived as a coffee mug. Now, if you want to just move ahead with the tutorial and get on to the next part, which is going to be on materials and lighting, you can do that. However, if you want a little bit of a challenge, like a little bit of a homework, where you can try to use some skills but by yourself, you will see, looking at the photo here, that we also have a saucer, a little tiny plate for our mug. Now, I didn't include that in my final image. I just had the coffee mug just sitting on the table. But this is a great, very small thing that you could try to model by yourself using the skills that you've just learned to create something new. So how would you go about adding that saucer? You can have a try at it. It's a completely separate object, obviously, to your mug here. So even if you screw it up, worst case scenario is you just delete it, and then you'll still end up with something that I actually had for my final result, which was a mug without a saucer. But if you want to add that in, it'll be a way to kind of take some of the lessons that you've picked up already, and then try to remember them and the different steps and the things required to create it. Because whilst you've just created something now, it's the best time to try to recall that memory, so that in the future, maybe in a few.
All right. A mug coaster. Wouldn't it be? It would be a cylinder with a depth of, let's see, 1, 2 big. 7. I think I should have made it a little wider, but oh well.
A few days or a few weeks from now, when you try to do something yourself, it'll be a lot more readily available to recall that information. So if you want to have a go at doing that, feel free to. Otherwise, join me in the next part.
Okay. And I think, let's see, this is split into 8 parts. I think I'm good to end stream there. Gosh. So, the first section took about half an hour, and the second section is going on about 1.5 hours. And both of them were about the same length in the actual video. So, hopefully it does not keep getting longer. But yeah, I will. Save. And then I will thank you all for watching. See you next time, and I hope you all have a nice day. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi.